listening to Polymatic.media, episode 58 for June 2nd, 2019. Welcome to the Polymaticast. Hey, John, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you, Alan?
Lots of stuff today.
Lots of stuff to do.
Recording with John at 9. Gotta go get my hair cut. Kyle and Luke are gonna send their new show in. Lots of little things today. It's Saturday, but for everyone else it's Sunday. But lots of things going on. And in the last month, I would say a bunch of stuff has happened. I'm getting near Otakon, so everything is getting. I'm in the, I recognize the storm warning has happened, and I am very nearing the storm, and so I'm not exactly in the calm. I'm in the calm knowing that the storm is coming. So when they say the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Well, it's not eerily quiet and slow right now. Life has been a little tactfully, peppering me with busyness. So anyhow, that's kind of where I am on my Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am right now.
Well,
So anyhow, what's been going on with you?
I redecorated my my workspace. I don't know if we talked about this last time. I don't remember when I did this. Somewhere at the beginning of May. I did. Maybe we recorded the endgame thing in the new setup. Yeah. But I put LED lights on it and stuff, and I put some 3 standing desks in my office. So yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been investing money elsewhere, so I hadn't really been investing in my studio space, right? I see wires dangling every which way, and I talked about, even here, I'm gonna buy a new mixer, and then I'm just gonna rewire everything, and that probably will. No, definitely will, because I started in the background. Behind me is a bunch of cable management stuff I started to experiment with. And so I'm going to forcibly clean up all that junk. So, I'm going to go through that process real soon. Or maybe not real soon. My money's been going
when everything calms
into
down
other
again.
things. Other spare things that add to the conversation, the busyness that we had a moment ago.
Yeah, it's been quite busy over here as well. I closed some projects that were done.
Yeah.
I did start some new stuff, but that got delayed again. So, and I had some overtime days off that I needed to take care of. So I kind of took care of most of it. So, and that's gone now. That's great.
Yeah.
A bit more relaxed. That's very good.
Yeah, I'm not in that state right now. I think that maybe that's the way to describe it. I'm not in the most relaxed state at this point. Just lots of. I'll get there. I'm just not there yet.
Okay, well, so you bought a new camera. I did. We talked about it last time that you were going to do it, but you finally did it.
Yeah, and the moment finally came, and I just sort of pulled the trigger, and I bought the A6400, Sony A6400. Now, I was intending to buy.
You only bought the body, right?
Well, I actually bought the kit, and I just bought the whatever 16 with 55, maybe 50 millimeter kit lens on it, so I obviously bought the new body plus some, and the reason I did that is because I wasn't 100% sure if the MC11 Sigma MC11 lens converter was going to work out.
Okay.
And in the cost of the bundled kit, it was extra $100 to buy it with a kit lens, which kit lenses are not always known for. Actually, they're never known, even when you buy high-end ones, to be great. To be the best of the lenses. And if you were to go buy this lens by itself, it costs somewhere about $150 or more. So being bundled together from the manufacturer, it seemed to be sort of the best value and sort of circumstance right there. So what I did before I bought the camera body was I bought myself a f-stop 1.8 fixed millimeter lens. I think 50 millimeter lens. I bought the MC11 Sigma MC converter kit that allows me to take from Canon EF mount to Canon E mount. And then I used the Sigma lens that I had from my old Canon camera, and I put that on through with the converter on the A6400 body. So at this point, I have an semblance of 2 native lenses and 3 total that I'm using with the camera. So I bought a new camera. Now, this isn't the full frame beast of the A7S, the Alpha A7S Mark III. It's not that. It is sort of a in between the 2 model numbers. So this is 6400. Previously, there was 6300, and the one this is sort of, I think, replacing is A6500, which is sort of like a junior version of the A7S series. And some of the improvements they made in A7S Mark III and some of the improvements they made in the 6500, they kind of combined into the A6400 into sort of the junior version of the A7S series. So that's what I bought, primarily for cost. And in hindsight, another extra $300, $400, actually, I could have bought the A7S Mark III.
That would have been a full frame.
Yeah, it would have been full frame. But what I wanted to do was I was going for budget, right? I needed a new camera. I've been talking about this for almost a decade. Maybe not almost a decade, more than half a decade. So I've been talking about it for a while. I was going to buy a new camera anyways. I totally shifted it into a whole different brand, which comes along with its own differences that I'm not used to, and then also on top of a bunch of significant improvements because the gap of time has been like 9 years in comparison. And we've talked about, like, you have the model after my old Canon camera.
Yeah, you have the T2i, T2i, right?
I have the T2i. You have the T2. You have the T3i.
Yeah, so it's almost been a decade since that one came out.
Yeah, almost. Like for you, about 8 years. So anyhow, the point about that is that from the T2i, they made a bunch of significant improvements in the T3i, and they were significant. This is now on the path that everyone started to take. The kind of default improvements they made on that T3i, they have made every camera coming out from that point on has had all these sort of new feature sets built in, where I had to hack my camera to get some of that extra stuff, like control over your audio, turning off the auto with an ACR or something like that, the auto leveling mechanism, like all kinds of little things, having better force control over a bunch of things. In the Canon world, the only way you get that is to buy like the Mark, the 5D, right? So anyhow, point is that any camera that I was going to buy of a significant equivalent and higher was always going to be better. So I got all that stuff. All that stuff comes. And so, so I bought a kit, but basically I bought a new camera body. And I wedged it along with the converter kit. And that works out for the most part.
So how much did you spend?
So if you're looking at the camera body with the $100 lens on it, it's about $1,000, just under.
Okay.
If you're just looking for the camera body, it's about $900 US.
Okay.
And then the MC11 converter kit, one of the things that I always learned and loved about living in the Canon universe is that your option for lenses is abundant. And there's a lot of good, inexpensive, quality glass in the Canon universe. Now, when I say inexpensive, yes, there is totally the things that come out of China that have Chinese names all over them, and your chances of getting a good lens are I don't know, maybe 2 out of like 5 times, you might get some really good quality lenses, and the rest of it comes with a cost of how much you paid, which is a lot less. So that range could be $100 to $500, and you can get some kind of junk / maybe potentially quality Chinese lenses.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about more reputable, known brands, the starting costs are typically $400 to $1,000, and then good quality glass starts at $1,000 to thousands of dollars. So with that said, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But with that said, I knew that the Canon universe had much better lenses than I could, in my research, find out about a lot of the Sonys. And I wanted my options. So I spent about $250 for the MC11, which is that, mount converter kit. The thing is, a week, maybe 2 weeks later, they dropped the price from $250 to $150.
For the converter.
For the converter, just by luck, I already bought it. I could have saved myself $100.
Can you return it?
I don't know if that's still the case, but it was for a good month. So after they did that, so whatever. So I bought that. I bought all those things, and then I bought some small rig stuff, so that I could put it into a case to protect it, and then also to mount lots of extra things so I can start building a rig for my uses.
Yeah. So that wood thing you sent me a picture about it, right?
Yeah, there's a little wood cover, handle cover.
Yeah.
It's like a faceplate, yeah.
Is that part of that rig?
That is a part of, it's a thing you can put onto the rig, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's they're not cheap. I don't know what the price is on it, but assume, let's say it's more than $30 for that little faceplate that goes onto the rig, which then sits in front of the actual native, natural A6400, little bit of a bump that they call a grip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you got the A6400, and if you want to watch a review of that, that's Polymatic.media/QD for a review by iJustine. Alan hasn't seen that video, but you can go watch that video.
Yeah. So so I don't go off on large tangents about it. What are your questions of what are your concerns? So you had mentioned that iJustine in that video mentions about power, right?
Yeah.
Power's not great. Batteries are kind of small.
If you look up the
specs.
Was it the EOS 600? This is T3i, I think. You could put like an extra thing below it with an extra battery pack. So
right, you can get grips. Yeah. I think you can get grips for the Sony cameras. I don't think that's
3 or 4 batteries in it.
Right, yeah. I think you can do stuff like that. There's also, you can buy dummy batteries that pop in the door and then pop out with like a power tap. I don't necessarily mean a P-tap, but allows you to exchange it off onto USB or wall power or various things. So there's been lots of those, and that's almost universal, not just Sony stuff, but you can get that on modern, Canon cameras as well, Nikons as well. So, so you can kind of get past that problem. But one of the things that, and again, this is sort of the modern nature. Maybe this is, I don't think it's unique to Sony, but certainly isn't something that Canon does, as far as I'm aware. Sony allows you to do USB charging.
Okay.
So I can pop on
a battery bank,
one of those $30 20,000 milliamp batteries from like Anker, these power cores, and throw that up on the rig, and I can run that along and power tap into the camera itself.
Is it USB-C?
Mm-hmm. You could do. It's not USB-C. It's whatever. Not micro. Whatever the predecessor before everyone was doing USB-C. I always get it confused between mini and micro. The connector, you look at the jack, it looks more mini than micro, but anyhow, I think it's micro, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I've been looking at getting a new camera as well, but I don't want to switch to Sony. I am very used to Canon. I have my my quirks when it comes to buying new stuff from different manufacturers.
Yeah.
But so I've been looking at the what was it? They have a mirrorless setup as well.
Oh, the R? I've heard not great things about
No, the M.
Oh, the M. Oh, that one. Okay. That's more of the TI family equivalent of their mirrorless. I didn't hear great things about that either. So let's talk about that. So when you get into cameras, right, there's really, when you're talking about like prosumers, not professionals, which means you, person listening, you're talking about like cinema grade, which kind of start to overlap into the possibilities of being used professionally. Your pocket cinemas from Blackmagic. Mostly Blackmagic owns that space. Your Canon C200, 300, those are actually kind of considered to be professional at this point. Those kind of cameras, right? And then you got DLSRs, right, which have reflex lenses in them, even though they're digital. And they have, that's your Canon 5D Mark whatever, or your various other Sonys and Nikons, your typical DLSRs, which have been owning the space for, I don't know, more than 10 years. And then you have mirrorless, which has been around for maybe, I don't know, maybe about 10 years or so. Panasonic was heavy into them. Fuji was heavy into them. And what they are is they just kind of remove out the reflex lens, and the body weight has come down significantly. So the cameras are much smaller. So that was one of those things on the A6400. The camera was significantly smaller.
Lighter as well, right?
Lighter. But once I put the rig stuff all over it, now I got my weight back. Now I'm back into my comfy zone. But I said to somebody that I kind of know from Philly in another Discord, and I said, oh yeah, I was not expecting to be, I know it was going to be smaller, but I don't know, it was so tiny in comparison. And he's like, oh, I could have told you that. So, but once I added all the rigging, the weight starts coming back, and then, now I feel, and actually even when I worked with professional cameras when I was in my 20s and a teenager, I liked cameras with weight because I could put it on my shoulder and it helps me stabilize. I'm not a person of a lot of muscle, so for me, having some weight allowed me to kind of work with that. So that was a thing. So mirrorless cameras have a significant difference there. However, there's a bunch of benefits, and one of the benefits is, aside from weight, is power consumption. They consume way less power. They're much more silent, but they're meant to be sort of a stopgap between somebody who doesn't want to walk around with a big bulky DLSR and previously was in love with everything point and shoot but wants something better than that. And that's kind of where mirrorless, that's the product space they were supposed to fill. But then everyone who was making DLSRs turned them into everything else that DLRs also can do. Yeah. And so that's where Sony kind of really ramped up and put a lot of their bets there, which is why they made full-frame mirrorless. And then they also make things like the 6000 series, which is, these sort of junior versions of full-frame cameras, so that it's a crop sensor. So I think in terms of that goal, I wouldn't recommend the M. I didn't own it, but I had sort of, as I was sort of going through this process myself, I was thinking about it, looking at it, and I was like, I was very unimpressed with it. I mean, at that point, especially with whatever given cost, I think it was about as much as buying an 80D. And at that point, you might as well buy an 80D. Because I don't think you're going to love the mirrorless body format.
Why not?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Probably due to the same thing I had, my little comfort issue with weight.
No, okay. And it's not as much weight. Actually, I think that the 600D is kind of heavy. So I don't know, kind of.
The 80D, I don't know if it might be
Yeah,
actually
but
lighter.
if you compare the M50, right? If you compare that one, it's like the one with a kit lens and everything. It's 582 euros. If I look at the 80D, it's like
Oh no,
$1,000.
it's $1,800. Yeah, but $1,800. I don't know when that number is sort of stamped in my brain from when it came out. It's probably a lot less.
Yeah, you can get it for 849 just the body, and then
Right.
$90 in cash back. But
So
I don't know, man.
it goes back to your goal. Is your interest more photography, or is it more video? Because if you're going to get into above $1,000 body format and you care a lot about video and the quality of video and being as pristinely raw as possible, then the new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K is probably better. But as a photography camera, it's terrible.
Well, for me, camera stuff has only been like a hobby.
Yeah.
So
I have a larger need for it because I'm doing a documentary. And so that's that was my more recent driver to go spend some cash on it. But I'm not done. I'm going to buy one of those recording monitors.
yeah.
I would have spent the money, but I had a work trip, and so I had to put a bunch of expenses out of pocket, and so work owes me money back, and so I have to sort of refill the chest of cash a little
The
bit.
Bank of Allen.
Yeah, so I'm going to buy one of the recording monitors. I always say it wrong. Atomos.
Yeah. Ninja.
Yeah. I think the Ninja, the 5-inch 4K, whatever it is, that's the one I'm going to buy. I already bought at least a 1 terabyte Samsung 860 SSD to use as its recording mag. I'm going to buy probably another one so that I can swap them out during when we're doing filming.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna buy the monitor. And then part of my other reason to buy all the small rig stuff is I bought a cheese plate that goes on the bottom of it with my intention to buy I think I'm probably going to buy a D-tap mount and get a big battery pack, which then will allow me to run power to the camera and to the monitor from a much larger battery pack onto the rig, and allow me to kind of power everything into the space of the rig.
What does the A6400 record onto?
It records onto just SD. So here's the example. The A7S has two SD slots, right? So you can do dual recording. Where here, this only has one slot. One of my complaints about that is the So on SD cards, they have a little notch that you can kind of with your fingernail kind of grab onto to pull the SSD out after you kind of spring pop it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So on the Sony, it's on the inside against the wall of the door battery space. So I can't really get in there to get to the notch to pull it out. I literally have to kind of pierce it from, pinch it from the sides and kind of wiggle it out after I spring.
Can't you just push it in and then it springs out?
No, it pops up, but it still has the battery door, the battery compartment space wall that's real close to that. So what I've been doing, and this is a neat feature, what I've been doing mostly is I'll tap the USB on it and I'll use it as mass storage, and I'll grab files over from it. Actually, I don't think I do that anymore. What I've been doing lately is I've been moving files literally onto my phone if it's photography, right, video. And I move it literally through an app from the phone, from the camera directly to my phone. And then from there, I have been sort of Instagramming, or I've been sharing on Discord or various places directly. And then I just upload it through Dropbox from my phone straight up to Yeah, to my PC. So, if you're in the Apple universe, you can do this with their iOS app, and you could just airdrop it to your desktops or
So that's
laptops.
also one of the reasons I want a new camera, is because that thing, the 600D that I have, it's great and all. It's just there used to be. I had a Wi-Fi SD card,
Mm-hmm.
which would allow me to connect to my phone and allow it to do stuff. But the app
Oh,
suddenly
yeah,
turned
iFi.
into something else. The
Yeah.
iFi, yeah. But
Yeah,
the
but
app
that went
got
right
sold,
to the
and it
yeah.
installed some sort of, I don't know, really bad software, and it was really, I didn't like it anymore, and
Neat idea,
and
just
it didn't
bad
work anymore. It
implementation.
just stopped working. Yeah,
Oh,
we bought the app, and we basically broke the app, and now your SD card
You're
is
out
a
of luck.
brick. Have fun. Bye. So
Yeah.
I set it on fire. Not the
So,
camera, but the SD card.
Yeah, so the one thing I will warn people about, especially if you're into video, my general use case for cameras has been with my general lifestyle. I take pictures through the podcast. I've been increased in interest to take pictures of things around me in life, including myself occasionally, which is a thing I never do. And actually post stuff to Instagram, stuff like that. Now, don't get me wrong, my cell phone camera is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But you got to play with your camera to get used to it, get comfortable with how you're going to use it and stuff like that. And I'm going to hit some point in July where I'm going to be using this camera less for photography and very dedicated for several days of just use of video. So one of the problems with mostly Sony's, predominantly the biggest issue is definitely in the A6400, is it has vertical banding problem. So a lot of people call it the jelly roll. So if you laterally whip the camera while it's in video mode,
Okay.
like, let's say you do a rapid pan, right? You have a vertical banding problem. It can't keep up.
Oh wow.
But if it's straight on, locked down, pointed at a thing, you're taking a time lapse, or I'm taking a headshot, or for documentary, I have people or a person sitting in a position where it's been focused and it's been lighted and everything is solid. It's like a studio environment where they're sitting and I'm filming them. This is perfectly fine. You're good.
It's
but
just
in the case
when you're
of
doing activities, then it's not
right,
a good
if
thing.
you're gonna do trying to follow the car as it speeds around the raceway, no, this is not your camera. Otherwise, it is, aside from not being full frame, it's a pretty banging camera.
Yeah.
Especially for price value. It is really good for price value, given a lot of what comes along with it. You can charge over USB if you need it. There's always the option for all the cameras, dummy batteries where they have power taps, or they have like USB out, or so you can hook up big battery packs to them. It records onto, I have right now, I bought a 256 gig SD card that I stuck in there, so it has that right now. I think it can go to half a terabyte, a 512. I think it can go that far up,
Okay.
no problem. And then it puts out 10-bit video, right? But it only records 8-bit, and that's the thing. All the Sonys do this. They all record 8-bit. But if you tap them up with a recording monitor, you can get 10-bit out of it. And then those recording monitors can do extra things like record directly to ProRes, which is about as uncompressed as you're going to get in a compression.
Yeah.
And you can get, and also by doing that, you're shifting all the power consumption out of the camera body and onto other things. Like, it's not really recording, it's just on. So in cases like that, the heat issues that you run into kind of go away, because they're basically, the camera is just kind of pass-throughing the video feed.
Okay.
And then there was one other thing I wanted to mention of note. It has external mic input on it. Everyone complains about the screen, but the screen's been fine. I don't know. I've always been able to run and gun with a camera, not having to see my face to frame myself. I have a sense of it. So for me, that's never been an issue. In the case of a documentary, well, I'm going to be running that to a recording monitor, which is going to be external anyway. So, a recording monitor is not a run and gun situation anyways. So I'm not really concerned. And then given the sort of roll effect that I was talking about, that's obviously is not a run and gun camera. In hindsight, I could have probably been a little more patient, spent extra money, and bought myself an A7, S Mark III, but I didn't. I just didn't.
You just didn't.
I was feeling the weight of wanting to get there faster. No, there was something about the A64. Oh, recording limit. In the A7S Mark II, there's a recording limit, and all the Sonys prior to that. In the 6300, the 6500, which is well on its way out, and the A6400 is clearly supplementing it altogether, does not have a recording limit anymore. Now, again, this is sort of a non-conversation piece when you talk about, recording externally, like onto a recording monitor.
Yeah.
And in cases like that, it's really, as long as the camera doesn't turn off, you're good to go. Or doesn't overheat, doesn't have temperature warnings, doesn't have, some kind of external problem that causes it from operating. Yeah, you're fine. So that's it. I think that's the brain dump on the 6400. Obviously, I'm not selling to you, so you're not buying.
I'm definitely not buying a Sony camera.
Yeah, I will make one point, and I think I hadn't really tried this out yet, but I think one of the issues that I noticed is through the MC11 on this lens my Sony lens that I put, my Canon lens that I put on it, the old Canon lens. The whip-it fast autofocus in video doesn't work through that converter. Now, that could be the lens and not necessarily the converter's problem. But with that said, for me to get the modern equivalent of that lens for the Sony E-mount is less than $400. So that's on my list of sort of, after I buy the recording monitor, I'm going to buy that lens too. The 17 to 70 millimeter 2.8 f-stop, native to the Sony, so I can return it back to my Canon. And I'm sure that I will regain the whip-it fast autofocus in video. I hadn't really, because I hadn't been living with them, I haven't put one of the Sony lenses back on to the camera and sort of put it in recording video mode and see how the autofocus works. So outside of that, I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting used to it. It is different. One of the things, though, is I have neutral picture profiles, and that means I can color grade much easier. Where Canon naturally looks great, the problem is they don't really have unless you get in their cinema cameras, they don't really have neutral profiles, color profiles. So you can grade, but you're sort of counter grading to color grade. Where in the Sonys, I have lots of professional cinema picture profiles I can configure up and set it to be as neutral as possible so that I can color grade at will.
Kind of depends on what your use case is, right? So for me, it wouldn't be an issue.
But I will tell you, though, it's a good photography camera. Yeah. Most of the stuff I've been posting on Instagram or in Discord or wherever is not touched. Right.
Well, the thing is that I would like is something where I can just take it straight off the camera into my phone and just post it somewhere. Because right now I have to do a song and dance and copy it onto from the SD card onto something else, and it's really
worst case
big mess
for me. I can pop out the SD card. I just, like I said, it's a little like you gotta pinch and wiggle it after you popped it out, and it you can't really grab onto the SD card because I can't. My finger, or at least my thumb, or my fingers are at least, and I don't have huge fingers, and my fingers aren't enormous, so even I have a little bit of trouble getting that card out by grabbing on that notch. I can't really do that. I gotta find some other way of doing it. So lately, anything I needed for pictures, especially during like when I take pictures during the podcast, I am literally just, transferring it to the phone and then sort of uploading it right on through Dropbox up to my system and then working on it immediately. So that has been really a nice feature to have, but also that works really well given in, sort of an isolated environment like, being at home.
Okay, so I also bought some new gadgets.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So I've been working on a Mac 2015, a MacBook. So it's a tiny 12-inch, tiny Raspberry Pi powered MacBook. It's like the,
and they
when you look at the
Pro onto the language of that the branding.
No, it's a 12-inch MacBook. It's about the size. The motherboard is about the size of smaller actually than a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah,
and the SD card, the SSD, and everything is soldered. Everything is soldered to the thing. So there's nothing replaceable on it. No memory. You cannot add memory and stuff. It's
typically
Mac.
The way the Mac Ultrabooks work. Actually, that isn't fair to Apple. I think a lot of Ultrabooks are all like that.
No,
the
actually,
upgradability is not always high.
The razors and stuff, there's nothing solar to the motherboard, so you can replace the SSD.
You can now, but when I was replacing this, my current laptop in 2018, maybe 2017, I don't even know anymore. When I went and did that, the razors were still soldering the memory. The only thing you could pop out was, I think, just the SSD.
Yeah, but even then, there was something that was replaceable. You can just extend the storage. That's nicer. Even on Macs, they don't even do that anymore.
Right. Okay. So the argument you're making to hate on Apple is that everyone else can upgrade, but I can't.
Either way, so I have been using that since 2016. So I bought the MacBook from an Apple employee, like one of the geniuses.
Oh, got ya.
Yeah, so he was selling his old Mac, and he was like, "Yeah, I bought it like half a year ago. I'm buying the new one." So he was selling the old one. I got the receipt and even had like the employee discount on it, so it was true. I have a love-hate relationship with that device. It was very good for its portability. So going somewhere and having your machine ready for use for like doing some coding, some light stuff. But it wasn't good for like anything else. Like doing anything special, doing video editing on it, it's just not going to happen. So there's just one USB-C port. So you're stuck with that thing. If that breaks, then you're boned. One of the problems I've had with that thing is that it can't run Skype and Chrome at the same time. So it was one of the issues we had with the podcast where I was like trying to record. I had to grab my iPad to look at the Trello board, see what the links we're gonna talk about. So eventually I was like, okay, I'll buy a new MacBook because I wanted to stay in the ecosystem because it's very easy for me to develop on this machine, on those Macs. Because most of my stuff is open source, so it's PHP, stuff like that. So I decided to buy a MacBook Pro. So turns out they had a discount at a store. It's the AMac store here in the Netherlands. That's like there are like 40 something stores here, and they had a discount for all the Macs from 2018. So that's a 2018 model. It's a MacBook Pro. I have the same MacBook Pro model for work. Just instead of a Core i7, I have a Core i5. So it's the only difference basically. It's a great device. I love it. More ports, very nice. And then adding some extra storage to it by getting a Samsung T5. I've tried running World of Warcraft on it, Factorio on it. Yeah. It's all the stuff that I couldn't do on the old machine.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
got ya.
It couldn't do anything.
So, like, if you're playing Factorio, you were using your your Windows desktop.
I have a Windows desktop for games, but I'm not going to play any games on this machine because the Windows desktop has like a ultra wide monitor now. So it's like, okay, I'll just play it on that because it's nicer.
That's going to be my gadget. That's on my gadget list. You know, if this documentary wasn't sort of foisted upon me, I wouldn't have maybe made those camera upgrades so rapidly. Knowing my nature, I would probably wait another 5 years to make a decision. I think it's really because I put the cash in places, and know, the studio would have gotten the overhaul first. So because it's my most active tool set that I use all the time.
But you bought like a new laptop like a year ago, right?
I think I bought this. It's a 2017 model that I think I bought in 2018. I feel like I bought it in 2017. I know I didn't buy it when it was like brand spanking new. Maybe it was between 2016 and 2017. I don't know. I can't really remember. I've had this thing long enough that I can't remember when I bought it. Because my old laptop is sort of not really, it's okay as a laptop, but it's sort of aging. So point is, this is an Ultrabook. This cost me a chunk of change.
Yeah.
But so it only has a GTX 1050 in it, right? Okay, so it's not rolling with, but gaming is not my center focus. So anyhow, the long and the short of it is this laptop is pretty baller given its time frame. It's pretty baller even today. And the one amazing thing I can do is I can pop the bottom of this thing out and I can replace the hard drive. Yeah. And I could replace the RAM, though I maxed it out at 32 gigs for this model. I can replace the Wi-Fi card in it. If I wanted to put a Wi-Fi 6 card in there, I could do that. And in the state of affairs when this thing was new, your Razer equivalents, your equivalent Ultrabooks with like 1080, GTX 1080s in them.
Yeah, but I'm not buying this to play games on it. I'm buying this for productivity. For creativity. So I'm doing some minor video editing on it maybe if I'm on the go. I'm considering getting one of those X5 Samsung SSDs, like for the really, really fast SSDs, to put my stuff on there for like on the go editing if I want to. But then again, this doesn't have like a separate video card. It has the Intel graphics on it. It's not a wonderful gaming machine. That's not what it's for. It's for coding. It's for watching some YouTube videos.
And I think that was kind of where I was going with this. Is I bought this laptop not because I was concerned about playing the latest whatever, needing an RTX card. Like I wasn't concerned or caring about that. Its value add for me was not to buy a desktop and to be able to do better than it was able to do before, which is video editing, and having at least the GTX 1050 in there does absolutely help with video editing, though it gets real kind of unhappy with Premiere and 4K. It doesn't love raw 4K. It's okay with compressed 4K. It's just not very incredibly happy with ProRes. I can get by, but it's not wonderful. This is where I like having an eGPU. But so the point of
and that's the cool thing about this thing, right? You can put an external GPU in this. You can just plug it in through Thunderbolt.
But this is the this is a 7th gen. This isn't an i8 processor that's in here. So the PCI Express lanes on the chip are a lot better in the i9 and the i8. So if I was to buy the modern version of this today and then maxed out, which would be 64 gigs versus 32, then I would have, I think, 44 lanes or more than 44. The i8 provided 44 PCI Express lanes, and I don't know what the i9 does. I think the i9 gives you a lot more than that. So I could hook up multiple eGPUs under that version. But this version, I think, probably I might be able to get away with one external. But I hadn't tried it yet. You got to spend like $700 to even start that entry point, right? To even do that. So haven't done it yet. probably going to. I definitely saw an eGPU that looked pretty baller. Maybe about 2 months ago, that was running around $700. That would give me I think a 20 RTX 2070. It would give me a 2070 with the eGPU, and it would probably more or less supplement my existing USB-C dock. And then that would totally take care of, my solution. I can kind of redo the office. But yeah, so the whole tangent aside, which was log.
Which I'll cut out.
Yeah, I guess so. Got me to the conversation piece about spending money, and then also talking about I totally on my gadget list is to go ahead and get one of those 50-inch ultra wides. Because when I was down here with those other 2 monitors combined, I had about 50 inches of monitor space, 2K worth of monitor space. So I really like to kind of get towards and back that, because when I'm editing, it's really nice not to have to scroll. I'd rather just move my head gradually and look at the timeline. For things like that, it totally makes a difference. Plus, I would reduce the monitor set that I have upstairs. Before I could even do that, I would probably have to buy an eGPU for the laptop and see if that works out.
Yeah.
Because I think as it is, it can support up to multiple 2K monitors. It can support one extra 4K monitor, but I don't think I could support, 2 3K monitors or 4K monitors in the existing set without external hardware that can do that for me. So,
okay. So I bought a new Mac. I spent $2,000 on it.
Yeah.
That's euros.
Yeah,
that was expensive.
I spent
and
less
it's
on my
last
laptop.
year's model, right? So they dropped the new Macs low key, like, oh yeah, there's new Macs.
Yeah.
Which is great because then these, get discounted.
Yeah.
And they'll be good for another 5 years, right? At least. But I don't think I'm going to be spending 5 years on this machine. I'm going to be eventually just upgrading to a new machine as well.
Right.
And for now, I love this one. I gave away my old MacBook to my brother. His birthday is next week, so I just gave it to him. Like, here's your birthday gift. Have fun.
I haven't been in that. I haven't been in that process often, where even my old laptop sits right next to the TV on top of a speaker that we use for like the podcast to record stuff with. Not record stuff with, but like playback, like for us to watch videos or something when the case of something streaming.
It depends on your use case. If you want to reuse it like in your house, but I don't need it in my house anywhere else.
Right.
I don't do that kind of stuff.
So in that case, that laptop I had for maybe a good 7 years or so before, and it's still useful. It's just useful as a stationary device. Its Wi-Fi card finally kicked out, all kinds of stuff. It's one of those laptops that's sort of clamshelled in such a way that you have to kind of go in through the surgery of like through the keyboard, which is they're already flimsy by nature already. And just like I opened it once, I upgraded its hard drive, and now I put it back together, and I got it back together, and it was working. And I'm like, I'm never going to do that again. I could upgrade its RAM and do all the things. I'm like, I think it's time for a new laptop. And it was. So anyway, I bought one.
So you can look at the laptop I bought at Polymatic.QB.
Yeah.
And I bought the Samsung T5.
So you
actually,
were saying...
funny story about buying the MacBook. So I went to that store. I saw that they had a discount for a couple of weeks. They call it iDays or something like that. So I went to their store and they weren't open yet. It was like 9:30, and I was at the door, and they were just the guy just came wandering into the door to open up the store because I was really early apparently. I was there at 9:30. That's when they opened. But hey, okay. So I walked in and said I was here to buy a MacBook Pro. I said I want this model, this thing. And he was like, yeah, okay. What are you going to use it for? I'm like, oh, no.
One of those people.
He wanted to sell me something better.
Or
He wanted to
Yeah,
upsell me
okay.
to. He wanted to definitely upsell me to like the like a MacBook, a 15-inch. But I'm buying this because it's
Yeah.
a 13-inch because it's not that big. He wanted me to buy a 15-inch, and okay, um,
Right, because he runs on the assumption that he thinks he knows more than you, and probably for most people, despite Apple versus non-Apple stuff, this is true.
yeah, well,
That salesperson definitely usually knows way more than the average person. But for like me and John, this is their worst nightmare. To
oh yeah,
try to
definitely.
upsell
So he tried to
people
sell
who
me
are
that.
well
Okay,
informed.
so eventually we walked to the counter where he wanted to. So do you need anything else like cables or something,
Right,
docks or anything? Oh, I've already got all this stuff. I already have a MacBook Pro for work, so I have everything. All the dongles are on my house. They're all there, right? I have all the dongles. And he was like trying to sell me an external SSD, like a Samsung T5, right? So, I got the T5. They're in discount as well, so you can get like 500 gig for like $94. Great. Well, okay. So, okay. Well, I at first I wanted to use a Thunderbolt cable between the two Macs, because to my old Mac and my new Mac, to just make a clone of the old one and just put it on the new machine, and I can just continue working with everything, and there wouldn't be any problems with that because all my licenses, everything would have been moved. Eventually I decided not to, because apparently that doesn't work on the old MacBooks because it doesn't have a Thunderbolt port, which is, he was correct in that, right? So he did tell me like, okay, well that's not going to work, but I've seen it being powered off like another MacBook Pro, right? So you can power a MacBook off a MacBook Pro. It's fine. So he told me that it wouldn't work. Okay, fine. Okay, well, how much do they cost? Like, okay, so $94. Okay, I'll just get one of those. Oh, yeah, but they're out of stock. But I can order it for you. I'm like, no, I'll just buy it on a local site, and I'll just have it tonight. Right? I can wait until tomorrow, have it shipped to my house, but I don't want to. I want it now. I'm buying the machine now, right? So if I want to transfer stuff now, then I want it now. He didn't understand that. Fine. So eventually he rang me up, and I was like, well, he said, at least you know what you want. That was good. So then I walked to another store in the city, and I was like, okay, give me the Samsung T5. It was like $2 more expensive, and I bought that one.
You had said something about there being the X series. So originally, when these T's came out, the T series, I don't really remember a 1 or a 2. I definitely remember people talking about maybe T2 or maybe a T3. But to the point, they were basically full on like their Samsung Evo products inside an external, drive SSD that works right over USB, taking full advantage of the USB-C spec. And they are super fast, to the point where a lot of people, especially in the Mac world, were literally editing off of them directly. Yeah. And when they got real concerned about filling up, they just bought another one at the, sort of very expensive cost of several $100s for like half a terabyte or a terabyte even.
You can buy a terabyte now for 176, I think.
Yeah, so they must have differentiated, because if you want a terabyte or a 2 terabyte or something like that in the Samsung T5 format, they're incredible. They're still very expensive. I thought it was something like $400 or $500 to get a T5 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte or something like that. Now you're looking up the specs.
The price now. So if you want to get a 2 terabyte, is $372 for a 2 terabyte for a T5. And if you want to get a 1 terabyte, it's $179. And if you want to get a 500 gig, then it's $97.
So these prices came down. They came down a lot.
There's another model, right? So there's the X5, and that's the really expensive ones. That's the ones with the monster data transfer rates, and that's like $500 for a 1 terabyte disk.
Right, yeah. And I think that's the one I was talking about because that's kind of what the T-Series format used to be. They started with that. I don't know that they had this multiple SKUs like that, but I guess they do now. So, point is that while that looks real amazing, what I did is I repurposed my old 850 Evo like MSATA cards into just an external thing I bought off Amazon.
Yeah.
And I got one where it had the space for two of them, where I could I could put in a little RAID, RAID 0, or I could give them a RAID set, and it would do this all in the external. So I added directly off that for the documentary, so I got at least a terabyte of it's an 850. But it's still rapid fast, and it works great. And it's the equivalent of, a T5 equivalent.
Yeah,
for me.
For these, it's fine if it doesn't have like the, doesn't do the entire Thunderbolt, speed. Okay,
Right.
That's not what I need it for. Right.
But my point is though, no, I hear they're baller, and I totally believe it. Samsung, when it comes to SSDs, does an amazing job, and yes, they are a little more expensive, but absolutely can qualify that the price is worth it, because anytime I've had an SSD by Samsung, even if it's not like a pro version, they've been amazing.
And they're
like night and day, even on spec comparison products that I've had that haven't been Samsung. They are absolutely way more reliable and faster than even like my Crucial or Kingston or something that I might have had in the past.
So
but they're still amazing.
All my SSDs and all my machines are all Samsungs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So highly recommend it, especially at a $100 price point. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
In my case though, because I was talking about the recording monitor earlier, I spent $150 instead of $120, but I bought a Samsung Evo 860, 2.5 millimeter, right? And you can get them basically. Physical size of it doesn't really matter too much.
2.5 inch, not 2.5 millimeter.
Millimeter.
Millimeter?
2.5 inch, right.
Yeah.
You're correct. So,
Wow.
point is that that cost me $150, and sustain rate on that is 6 gigs a second.
Yeah.
So, and that might be my only little concern, is that might be too much power consumption for the recording monitor. So I might actually have to buy one that's slightly less expensive, that has less of a transfer rate, because it might have less of a power, a power consumption on it. But my point is that you could buy something like that and a $20, $30 good external, container set that plugs right in, that does full-on Thunderbolt USB-C, and you'd still be in a lesser price point. But you could
sure about that?
buy a Samsung SSD.
You sure about that? Because I've looked at those prices, and getting a dock for which has Thunderbolt in it, those are not cheap.
I bought
and
a
of
cable.
course there's another one. These are bigger, smaller than the SSD. So if you have these are like credit card size, but not as thin, of course, because that's
right. Well, an SSD that's meant to go into a laptop is obviously going to be physically bigger, because they're going to put things around it to kind of help with heat, right?
No, they're just filling out the space, because these things are.
They could be filling out the space, and so yes, when they bring that down to the T5, I'm not against the T5. I think they're definitely worth it, though. $500 for a 2 terabyte is
that's for the
costly.
X5, right? The $500 for the X5.
Sorry, yes.
But the T5 2 terabyte is. Let me go check that.
You had said something like 300 something.
Let me check. 372 for 2 terabyte. But
Okay,
who needs a 2 terabyte, right?
And I looked at buying the, as I was talking about earlier, I bought a 1 terabyte for my purpose for recording. I thought about looking at getting the 2 terabyte, and it was $330 US to accomplish that. So anyhow, point is that you could totally do this now. You don't need to worry about your laptops or your desktops having the internal space like that. You could totally edit on external. In my case, to the point that I was talking about earlier, again, I'm just using it to record on, and then I'm going to be transferring content off. But I bought a Thunderbolt compatible USB-C cable for $20 that pops right onto the SATA for the SSD. So, I don't have anything that's like fanning off.
Well, if you're connecting to like a SATA thing, the problem is that you're going to be limited by SATA, right?
Right, but the transfer sustained speeds on this are 6 gigs a second, which is sufficient for editing unless you're doing 8K stuff. So for me to file transfer, it's perfectly fine. But then I'm going to be editing on something of a less efficient, transfer rate. So maybe that's a whole thing I now have to think about calculating. Yeah. But yeah, so the point is, totally recommend. Definitely a Samsung T series, and now I hear about the X series. I got to take a look at that myself.
Yeah, those are Thunderbolt only, so they don't do USB.
Right. Yeah, because of the bandwidth.
Yeah.
And because of the specification. So I have that luxury on my laptop. That's the one thing that I have, and on my my Thunderbolt dock. So yeah, totally recommend it. Okay, so moving along, because we've been talking.
Polymatic.link/QC for the Samsung T5. For Polymatic.link/QB gives you the new MacBook that I bought.
Yeah.
So I got something else to tell you. We have a kind of a car pyromaniac situation here in Gouda, in the Netherlands. Over the last 28 days. There's 24 cars that went up in flames, and it's been really bugging me because there's been we had a car been set on fire like in September last year, and they caught the guy.
Do you know it? Oh, okay. It's a person. It's not because of heat issues or something.
No. This is the first day that it's actually above 20 degrees in the last few weeks, but it's not and they all do it at night, so it doesn't during the day they suddenly catch fire or something, and then smolder during the night, and then suddenly they light up. No.
It seems like the weirdest thing to do.
Yeah, it's really, really, really effed up. So they've been trying to figure out who it is, but it's like in one night recently they did 3 cars. 3 cars. And and one of them was like within 15 minutes on the other side of the city. So it was like, if you want to get there, you're going to drive by car, or you have some sort of scooter or something like that to get there. So, yeah, I don't know.
There's no like pattern correlated to the owners of the cars.
I don't know. I haven't actually been noticing that there was a fire thing going on. But I recently learned about it, and I was like, oh, there have been 13 cars. Wait, 15 cars, 20 cars, 24 cars.
Is this person coming for your neighborhood?
No, actually, we had a fire a couple of years back underneath the apartment building, and they put cameras in, so you can't really,
I hope this person doesn't get smart and figures out how to do that to electric cars, because it will be more than a fireworks show.
Yeah.
Or actually, it will be a fireworks show.
Now, so far he's been going. I think I've seen mostly vans that they've been trying to do it too, like company vans. That's what it looks like.
So there must be some correlation here.
Yeah, but also personal cars. So it's not really a pattern, right? So mostly a thing of opportunity. They were like a van being parked far away from other cars, and then they set it on fire. But the thing is, over the last few years, there have been a couple of fires in the neighborhood with cars. Maybe it's just this guy trying to do like preparing for his current crime spree. It's like, but because of the fire, that was really upsetting, because it was really, it wasn't underneath my apartment, but it's like, it was like a couple of apartments down the road. So we have like two two entrances to the building. And then just in between the two entrances, there was a car that was on fire. And recently they caught the guy on the top floor because he ran in because other people were trying to put the fire out. And they caught him on camera and they picked up the guy. So I wonder if it's the same guy. Right? But, Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a weird thing. I don't think I've ever heard of any kind of story like that here, though it probably could have been happening or is happening, and no one is really talking about it because no one is taking a strong interest in something like that. But it seems a little weird that someone would go and just, the pyromaniacs are setting things on fire and they're focusing on cars.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we all wish that. I mean, I don't wish for this to happen at all, but I wish that if anything comes out of it, at least there's some correlating evidence to the person targeting a company and executives or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we all want to find purpose for things.
It's just so strange. They just
it is very strange.
Vandalizing somebody else's property. It's fine that you have some sort of fetish for fire, but you don't have to damage somebody else's car or hurt somebody else.
It's not fine they have a fetish for fire, but also more importantly, when you light up gas bombs, it makes things worse. Especially if it gets into the fuel line. Yeah, it's a problem.
Well, I saw one article about that they found a car that they thought was being prepared to be lit on fire because there was something dangling from the gas fill up place. So anyway, Polymatic link /Q9 for the Dutch story about that. But this from last night. Another car went up. But you can Google Translate it if you want to. Okay,
cool.
I've got another thing. iTunes is disappearing.
Yeah, so what's the deal with this?
I have a lot of music in iTunes. I still have a lot.
Maybe one thing I might have bought with iTunes. I was never into iTunes in terms of a buy-in on it.
Well, I got an iPod, and then I put all the music through iTunes on there.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I had iPods too, but what I did is I would... especially this is a lot easier in the world of Windows, even though I spent money for people who've made software to do this. I would do the syncing from actual physical files that I created.
Yeah, from Winamp you could do that.
Right. Okay, so maybe eventually. But, back in the early days, it was sort of complicated to do stuff like that. So I would do the syncing that way, and I was always for buying music online. Totally for that.
Yeah, but
that was never an issue with me. But I wanted the option to be able to download it. And so one of my problems with Google Music is, absolutely, Amazon didn't come around yet. And so the offering was Google Music and iTunes, and then a bunch of other companies who were sort of walled garden like iTunes was. They were following that business profile. But at least Google will let you download the album or the song at least twice. And so I would download them and drop them into a Dropbox and sync it across all my systems, and then I would have physical backups of everything. And I would invest a little bit of money in storage to do that. And so that's kind of how I roll with my music. I sync it across everywhere, and I physically have it on my phone, or I physically have it on my systems, and that's how I did it. So if Google Music went poof or iTunes went poof, I had physical copies that weren't like some DRM version of.
Well, that's the problem with the iTunes stuff, because it's all DRM'd.
Right, it's a wall garden kind of thing. So the shift there was, people are like, I don't really want to physically own it. I just want to listen to it. And so that's why streaming stuff comes around, right?
Well, that's what Apple is going to be focusing on. Actually, it's not really that they confirmed this. It's actually just, rumors, but it's like everybody's talking about how iTunes is disappearing and that they're going to change it all over to music and...
they're being dramatic about it.
No, but it's like this is so widespread that they can't not do this, right?
Yeah. So I buy everything.
And I've
on
already
Amazon
seen
Music.
I've already seen this on the iPhone. So I have an iPhone and I have Apple. It's now just music, right? And it's no longer iTunes, but there is still an iTunes store. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to just stop selling songs or albums, which is going to be weird because then you can no longer own music.
Yeah. So, so I started to see this shift significantly. So knowing Orla and sort of following along what she's been doing, she and other people that I've heard them, what they say is it's not about putting out albums anymore. It's about putting EPs. So you put out a single, then you maybe eventually you milk the single all the way across all the streaming platforms up to the point where you build popularity for yourself or for the song and the product. And then what you do is you go ahead, then you put out an EP, and then you milk that for all it's worth for another half of a year or several months. And then if it's super popular, you you allow that to be bought by streaming services like iTunes and Amazon Music and whatever version of YouTube/Google Music it is.
Spotify.
And the other things like Tidal and Spotify, whatever. But you totally
Does anybody actually use
go
Tidal?
Exclusive on things like Spotify as the destination point for people to be able to hear the music. And to have your own physical copy of the file or a CD is more of a collector's thing. And this is kind of like what they've been doing in Japan, for example. This is how they're different. When you buy a CD out of Japan or even Korea, whatever it is, it's a collector's thing. They think more disposable about their patterns. And so the rest of the world is sort of catching up to this kind of way of doing business, which kind of annoys me because I'm just like, Jesus, just let me buy your thing and support you.
Yep.
Because I want to be able to work it into my system, which is have a physical copy of electronic, actual copy of the file that I can sync across all of my devices, and so that I can kind of manage and own that, so that if the streaming service goes poof, I still have physical copies, right?
Or the record company decides that Spotify suddenly isn't okay anymore, and then just pull all the music.
This whole mechanism, the way this works, it works really great for a lot of independent artists, because the whole have to sell you one whole big product that costs lots of money approach by albums. And keep in mind, people, a full album didn't cost $8. They used to cost somewhere around $30 on average. You would get a physical CD or cassette or maybe record, which would cost a little more. But that's what albums used to cost on average. And we're not even talking, you're talking like 20 years ago, but in the world of the music business, like it didn't cost them that much to press that and to produce it with all the it didn't cost them that much. Record companies were just sort of taking advantage of the situation because they had control over it. Well, they have less control now. So
they still take a lot of the money from the streaming, right?
Yeah. So they do, but I'm just saying is they don't have to put so much infrastructure in anymore.
Well, and people can do that themselves now. So you can just upload your music to. So
this whole change where it kind of irritates me a little bit on the back end. It is really useful for people like I said. I gave Orla as an example, where she's an independent artist and she can put the thing out. And the problem is, it's not that she wants to milk the process. She just wants to release her music and let people hear it. That's her. But all her management and all of record label and whatever, everything else in between wants to milk the promotional aspect of it. And that's why they make it not available for a month, but you can listen to it a bazillion times on Spotify. So it's all changing, and it makes sense to me.
It's just that as
accepting of it
for stuff you can have an album you bought like 20 years ago, and you have that album, you have that CD, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you have that vinyl record, right? And you can still play it if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if the Spotify decides that some artist that you like suddenly stops being okay to be on the platform, they just take it off.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in the case of like someone that I really liked as an artist, Mike Falzone, he's now doing comedy. He's literally removed just about every little of his presence in terms of his music off of his YouTube stuff. And while he can't completely shut down everyone's version of, I took from 10 years ago live footage of Mike performing on stage. He sort of decided that to focus back on what his brand is right now, which is comedy. He sort of erased his past, and he's not on Spotify. He never engaged in it, that kind of thing. So those things this point don't exist anymore. But I got some physical copies. I have electronic copies of his music, while you could still buy that stuff. And so I got that. I agree with you. I hear you.
Yeah, but those locker systems, like for example iTunes and stuff, they just don't. They'll make it disappear at some point.
Right,
There's people that have lost
their
their movies you bought on iTunes. Suddenly some guy's movie was gone. He couldn't download it anymore. And he asked, and here's a discount code for another movie or something.
Right. Yeah,
he couldn't buy it anymore.
No.
He couldn't get it back.
I hear you. I think we're totally in agreement with the problem with putting all your money into streaming services and stuff like that. In the case of, if I'm buying movies lately, like Captain Marvel is what I watched last night. I pre-ordered it because I never saw it in the theater. I bought it off Amazon Prime Video. And so, yes, there could be an argument made, well, I don't think Amazon's going to go away anytime soon. And even if they make it not available for purchase anymore, I don't know, they're going to have to identify how, because I bought a license for it, how they're going to make that available for me to be able to stream it, or at the very least download it to watch it.
Well, they're eventually just going to take it away.
They could. They very much could. But the other thing is, my goal in life is to remove as much physical junk that I have in life.
Yeah.
So while like Orla put out a new EP in the month of May, Ed, as like to be a super supporter, I should have just bought an EP, even though I was just going to stick it on a shelf and let it collect dust. I just bought the electronic version, mainly because I don't want to sort of clog up the physical pollution in my life. I already have enough of it. I got to work on getting rid of that stuff. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a graveyard for a bunch of things that are dusty. I'd rather have it in an electronic fashion. It's much more useful and portable in that.
It would be nicer if you could just download the copy.
Sure, right.
But the problem is that's going to come with some DRM, and which is going to break as soon as they turn off their servers for the DRM, and then you're not going to be able to play it anymore. And that's kind of the thing. Everything is like ephemeral. It's like you're not buying anything anymore. You're just renting it for a longer period.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny because that's not the price that they give it, right? They give it a price that's like you're buying it. You're buying a ticket. You're buying the thing, right? I want to watch it like an unlimited amount of times.
And so I definitely agree with you. I'm on board with that. This is also part of why I kind of saw this as an issue from the moment that I understood this is how it works. I never invested in iTunes. I was always more about buying the physical CD, making the MP3s myself, managing sort of files and folders, a music folder, and then putting the CD away and making it available everywhere portably I could. That has gotten easier in life because now we have devices that are fully capable of playing music and have ample amount of storage for me to put my 2330 gigs and sync that across all my laptops, desktops, phones, right? Perfectly fine, no problem. So this has worked out well for me to be able to play my electronic version, which, oh, by the way, is at high quality. So it's at a higher quality than typically what you buy when you get it out of iTunes, and there's no DRM attached to that. But the other thing is, to this point, well, what happens if where you buy it from goes away? Well, I have a physical copy of it, and there's no DRM attached. And I'm not one to give people internet access to my library. So there's no problem with me spreading a copy of anything. So from a collector's perspective, I totally agree with the argument about having a physical copy.
Now, I have to say that
I've
I
also
haven't
learned for me that I don't want that. And so I also never really invested much in iTunes to buy my music. So because I felt like this could be a problem. And so for me, I just kind of self-manage, sync files around. And so that's wonderful. Yeah, so that's how I sort of manage my stuff. For me, it's Amazon Music. And I can re-download that as many times as I need, but I have a physical copy of the MP3 file, and I can, that falls well into my back-end way of handling it, which is not automated and it's not perfect, but it works great for me. To this point, one of the things which was a bogus news story, I don't know, a few years ago, do you remember this thing about Bruce Willis, the bogus news story about Bruce Willis complaining that he found out that if he dies and all of his iTunes music library, he could not leave in his will all that music to his daughter?
Yeah, because the account is his.
Right, yeah. So even though it was bogus, it does prove exactly this concern and this point very well. That if I die and I leave John all my MP3s, well, John has all my MP3s. Yeah. There's no more to it. You could do whatever you want with it. But if I had it all in iTunes, then Apple is not required by any law to give that to you.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. You're just getting a license. Yeah. That's what you're getting.
Yeah, then, you're getting a license.
And then
to the individual
if they lose the deal with the record company,
right? There's also that licensing.
Then it's gone.
Yep.
Which is weird. They should make it more like a you own this. This is in your locker, right? And then you can copy the locker and say okay, this is now this person's locker. Yeah. Just gift it to somebody else. Speaking of lockers, Dropbox increased their price. Polymatic.media/GA or QA, sorry. Yeah, so they increased their price by $2 per month, and they gave us 2 terabytes instead of 1.
Oh, okay.
But that's not okay, right? They just say, oh, it's been increased to 2 terabytes. That's all they told me, and then I had to go look, and then oh yeah, we're raising the price by $2. What? I don't want this. I have like 400 gigs of storage that I use on my Dropbox, which is probably a lot for people using Dropbox. Mm-hmm. I don't need 2 terabytes. What do I need 2 terabytes for? I'm not even filled up with the first one.
Well, you and I have been on Dropbox for a while, and so I've been paying for service for it for a while.
Yeah, right? Me too.
A number of years. You longer than me. But I shortly came after that, and I did it because I support Dropbox. It's been a very good product solution for me. I know the alternative is to do Google Drive, it's worked out really great for me in a lot of ways, and so that is why I've been totally for it. So with that being said, and maybe I could blend my universe into something like Google Drive, and that'll work better for like my photos and stuff like that. And I've noticed they've always increased my quota well above the 2 terabytes. I mean the 1 terabyte.
1 terabyte. Yeah, but that's because of references. You get more storage if you bring them new customers.
Yeah, but I haven't been doing that, and I noticed that it's been increasing. Whatever the quota is, I'm looking it up right now. On average, it's been increasing, and I thought that was more related to the fact that it would just been customers for a long while, or that of my using it. I'm not using over 1 terabyte of their storage space. I'm not really 100% sure how much I'm using, but maybe I'm using maybe near 100 gigs, but I'm not storing like backup of every OG podcast on it. I'm
No,
not
me
doing
neither.
that.
But I put my my entire artist stuff on there.
Right. I put copies of like the final MP3s that we released for OG and things like that. So, and then my music library that I've decided to buy or have converted into MP3 and carried over and, whatever over time. So that's somewhere like over 30 gigs or more. And so it's been really useful there. It works really great. I know not everyone has a silky smooth experience with Dropbox. For me, it's been pretty good. And that's, was saying for probably nearly a decade of use of it. So it's been good for me, and it's been working great. And $2 extra a month, it's fine because I use it. It's a service I use. We're not talking about it going from $8 to $22 a month, right? So what? Now it goes from what, $12 to $14?
No, it goes from $9.99 to $11.99.
Okay, so for me,
but that's sort of plus, right? So you might have a different plan. That might be because I think there was
saying
maybe you have like
really
a professional
sure what I'm
plan
paying without looking at it. I just didn't know off the top of my head.
Because it's $19.99 for like the professional plan, or if you have a standard business for Teams or something, because that's 3 terabyte. I don't know. Anyway,
all I know is that I have over a terabyte of storage, and I'm not utilizing all that. And it's really predominantly because could I put that much stuff on there? Yes. Do I have on average a terabyte of storage? Just let me say this, rephrase that. An extra terabyte of storage on all the laptops and
well, you can
all
do selective
the
sync,
things.
Right? You can say, okay, this is
not.
only the stuff that I want to put online, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to put
stuff
everything in there.
I want to share with people, or I just want a easily accessible backup of anywhere.
Yeah.
That's how I use it. I toss source code up there too. And I do have source control that I pay for that I put backups on. But I use it for things like that, where I want accessibility to some stuff, in all the places, but it's not, I don't use it like my backup. I use it as an accessibility depot. And so it, for me, I'll never hit that terabyte right now, not for a while.
Yeah. But now you're not even going to hit the 2 terabytes.
Yeah, and I probably won't hit the 2 terabytes, but that extra couple bucks, that's fine because I use it. It's part of my system. However, maybe I can improve it by doing something like Google Drive, but to that I had to take the pain point of migrating.
So I've been thinking of actually starting to use the 2 terabytes. So when I realized this morning that they did this, like I got a notification saying, "Hey, you now have 2 terabytes." Like, yeah, I don't like this that I have to pay $2 extra. But then I started thinking maybe what I could do is just make one of those online-only directories that doesn't get synced. So you can do that on your device when you set it up, because there's not enough space on my MacBook because it's 256 gig storage.
You can say don't sync this
directory.
directly.
Okay, but you can make like specifically online-only versions. So what I've been thinking is just putting like the entire back catalog, every episode of Polymaticast and videos and stuff, like putting that all on there as like in a separate directory, just as a backup copy.
Got you.
But then again, I also have a NAS now, a free NAS machine that I can put stuff on there. There's like 8 terabytes of storage. Like I can just use that. I don't need this. The only problem is that the cool thing about Dropbox is that it just works, and it doesn't require you to open up network ports and stuff for your machine to be able to be hosting that. Right, and my network connection here, my internet connection is good enough for that. I could just tell people, okay, you can just download the file from here, blah.
Yeah, I always tell people, don't use it for your most vital things. Right, here in the U.S., if you
can do that with like a backup copy,
valuable possession, you get yourself a safety deposit box with a bank, and that's for limited use cases. You wouldn't have that same mentality with Dropbox, right? It should be for things that might be vital, but as a backup, but also not because you need it instantaneously. Because if you put a 100 gig file up there, it's going to take a while to transfer. And then the day that you need to get that copy back, it's going to take a while to transfer.
Yeah, it's
right?
like for archive storage, right? You can put your stuff in there. So I have all my artwork files on there. So I have them. I've been working on an article about how I do my artwork projects. How I do like I have files on my desktop, and then I have sync toy stuff and syncing that to a NAS, and then that being sent up to Dropbox, and then having a copy on an external hard drive, and having a copy on another machine, blah, blah, blah. I should really write this up and have like an article about it, because it would be really good, I think. It might just be totally obvious, but, Anyway, so they increased the price. I wasn't happy about it, but now maybe I might want to use the extra space or something. I don't know. Yeah, so Polymatic.media/QA for that. And then I have another one. I sent Alan something this morning.
You did. You gifted me Factorio. I think John's trying to send me a message, people.
He needs to waste more time on games.
I've been playing, as I said to you earlier, Puyo Tetris. Based on Bryce's recommendation, I saw someone else playing it, and I was like, oh, I might like that. Price came down on it a little bit. It's still expensive, but fun. I wasted a couple hours somewhere last week on it. So, but it's keeping me from finishing other games like Zelda. And
you haven't finished that yet?
Dragon Builders Quest.
How long have you had your Switch?
Dragon Quest Builders, and just like because I spend my time editing podcasts and then watching some YouTube, and then if I have a moment, which I never seem to have that much moment, I've been working on the app I don't ever talk about publicly, but I've decided to take a brand new direction on it because I think that's where I really ultimately wanted to go, and so I gotta build that, and I haven't had the moment to do it. That might be a thing I do tonight. And so if I go and I dump myself off. But there's also places and times where I absolutely want vapid set of distraction. I'm seeking distraction that doesn't require me to be doing things. I just want to kind of do something where it engages my brain, but I don't have to be learning or building a solution. You know what I mean? I can just sort of use my brain.
Okay.
And so
maybe Factorio is not the right game for you.
Games have been a great spot for that. And playing stuff on the Switch has been great for that. But I'm satisfied by playing 4 hours of balloons, TD, on the Switch. I'm happy with that. And then when I get frustrated with that, I might switch over and go play some, Puyo Tetris. That's fine. So there's definitely space for these things. Just it's not. I try to kind of not make that the only thing I do in life outside of work.
Either way, Factorio kind of scratches an itch for me.
Well, thank you for the gift.
It's kind of like a.
It was on my list of things to buy.
I know. I saw it, so that's why I bought it. So Factorio, Polymatic/Q8. It's basically you're building a factory. You crash land on a planet, and you have to start building your factory from scratch. Well, scratch, air quotes. So you get a cooker, you get an oven, you get a drill stuff, so you can grab coal, and from coal, with coal and iron and copper, you can start making your first inserters and stuff, and like little robot grabby hands to put stuff from one thing into another. You can do signaling, you can do trains, and you do all sorts of crazy stuff. You can even get to atomic bombs and rockets and stuff. So it gets really,
I'm totally
insane.
gonna love this game.
Yep.
Yeah, Alan's gonna disappear for 6 months, and you can blame John.
Well, just install it, play it for like 30 minutes, and then decide if you want to continue playing it.
That's not true. It's going to be like 30 hours.
Yeah, I spent like 77 hours on it, I think. So, yeah. And that's just one playthrough.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it quite a bit.
And it's not a heavy game, so it's not like a game that requires a lot of CPU. So it's you can play this on a laptop easily.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I really liked it. Anyway, I think we have some fun stuff to share and other things.
We do. So there's a group who makes like a bunch of comedy sketches stuff, and so they started this. They have, I don't know, maybe a half dozen of these videos where they're making fun of ASMR.
Oh yeah, it just pissed me off, this thing.
Don't get me wrong. I think ASMR, okay, I get it, but it's hard not to recognize. There's lots of there's lots of sexiness applied to the ASMR format on YouTube.
There's so many badly done stuff out there. It's
right.
Like just people talking into the microphone
like
this.
Right. So it doesn't, I'm
really
not one of those people
whispering.
Get activated by ASMR. However, I heard about ASMR a long time ago before this trend on YouTube, and it was absolutely super attached, not to the generality of like the science of ASMR, but it was typically attached to people sexualizing it. Oh, okay. So that's how I originally heard about this thing. And then, you know, sort of separating that away and just looking at as a whole what ASMR is what's really happening. Well, aside from that, it's hard not to notice how many attractive women are using ASMR as their way to be famous. It's hard not to notice that. And they don't just apply having a conversation in ASMR. They're doing lots of, again, sexualized things, seductive, suggestive things as their format. And if it works for them, great. And people are activated by that, that's fine. That's on them. But it's hard not to make fun of it a little bit. And so these guys have been doing a pretty good job. So I got two videos for you. Polymatic.link/Q6 and Q7. And so I don't know, I've been getting a laugh out of these things.
Yeah.
The cold brew one was kind of really funny.
I turned that one off. I got bathroom key. I was like, what the hell am I watching?
Right. Then, but once you understand what the joke is,
yeah.
There's a couple of them. There's more of them. There's these two. I think there's a couple more of them. They're not all like 100% winners, but if you like the joke, I at least recommend you check out these two. So there you go.
I've got some cool animation. Spring Herald by Curie Liu, Polymatic.link/Q1, and then the making of Polymatic.link/Q2. This is a Canada, some university in Canada where they do animation stuff. And this is like their project. It's like lots of different people worked on this. And then there was animation. It's pretty cool.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah. And then there's, this is something I actually wanted to talk about last time. CGP Grey did a stream for like several days where he streamed driving across the loneliest road in America. Or he was actually, the title was just driving of the stream. It's just driving. And then he had like dash cam footage of just the car driving, and there was nothing besides the car noise. He wasn't speaking, he was just driving. And it was really weird, and everybody was asking, where is he? They're trying to track him down, seeing when it was, because it was obvious that it was like put into segments. Right. You can actually see on his channel, you can still see he split it up into different files because he didn't store the stream. He just re-uploaded the individual episodes, basically.
Dash cams or whatever.
It's like 4 times 8 hours, I think. Wow. Yeah. But the stream was longer. I think the stream was like 2 days.
I think one of the most popular videos on YouTube is a video of a train ride going through someplace in Europe, like Swiss Alps or something like that. It's like the max out of 10 hours or something like that.
Yeah, it was great. I love the stream.
Most popular video. People find it. instead of like ASMR. They find it very calming,
Yeah.
and I haven't been someplace internationally or anywhere where like they're playing in the bar, on the bar TV or something.
Yeah.
Um,
No, but
but I'm sure maybe they're playing them in spas or something, in someone's spa's business.
the fun thing
I don't
about
know.
this is because it was the stream, there were people in there trying to figure out where he was, trying to
Right.
get the location.
And I think that's the other problem with a lot of this stuff, where I've always been very conscious about what I'm going to, like, I took a work trip and I mentioned I was going to be taking it, and I talked about it a little bit. I didn't say exactly where, I didn't say when. And then I talked about it, or I was already home, or I was owning my path to being home, or something like that. The advantage of having a roommate is there's always someone in the house who lives here.
Yes,
right?
that's kind of the thing. Because if you are on like social media and they figure out that you're not home,
Right.
by breaking into your house. But this is like from 2 years ago, so they eventually figured out. And I was in that chat at the moment they figured it out. Oh, we just saw a sign. It said 2017. Anyway, Polymatic link /Q3 for this. It's this is the condensed version. It's like 50 minutes, but it's like his the reason he took this road trip is like to figure stuff out basically. But it's very well edited. It's very worth watching this video. So Polymatic link /Q3.
Okay.
And then there was a segment in it, and it's actually quite funny. This segment, he was complaining about the cup holders in the Tesla. So he was driving a Tesla Model X.
Oh, okay.
Across, and he was trying to do like the loneliest road. It's like in I don't remember where exactly it was, but it's like a segment where there's nothing. There's only like road. And there were some RV parks, and he was gonna try to charge it at the RV parks and stuff, and he was nearly making it stuff. He didn't get stuck, so spoiler alert for that. But anyway, he was complaining about the cup holders, and somebody I think he did this after somebody was saying, "Oh, you should put some sounds below," right? It's they keep telling him that he's like a robot. Like CP Grey, they make fun of he's like a robot. There's a podcast called Hello Internet where they sometimes animate some of the episodes, and then he is usually represented by a robot. So anyway, he put sounds below. It's like trying to complain about the cup holders, like on his hand movements. So Polymatic link /Q4 for that.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check all those things out today.
And then there's another one, new book by Neil Stephenson. It's the follow-up to Reamd. I don't know if you've read that book. Probably not.
Probably not.
No. Anyway, so in Reamd, the main character, one of the main characters, is like the owner of a company for an MMO, and in this book, he dies and he is uploaded, and he is it's going to be an interesting book. I haven't read it yet because it's not out yet, but from what I've heard, that's really good. But then again, Neil Stephenson books are usually pretty okay. So Polymatic link /Q5 for that, giving Audible all the free promotion. Okay, I think that's it for today, right?
Yeah, I think that's plenty. It's been a long while.
We're nearing 2 hours, so.
Yeah.
So, Alan, where can they find you?
If you have to, you can find me on Twitter with my last name, CHAESS. If you have to, but
you have
honestly,
to. Don't go there then. Don't go there.
Don't go there because my social media is kind of pointless. So I don't engage on it that much. I am there. I check it every once in a while. People do DM me, but you don't need to. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
So you can find me on Twitter, WebDevy, WEBDEVVIE. For feedback, you can reach us at podcast@Polymatic.media. Our music is by Say Unz, which you can find at Polymatic link /EK. Our Twitter is The Polymatic. Our website is Polymatic.media, and I hope you tune in next time.
I'm pausing because I'm hearing that You hear that buzz? You didn't hear that buzz.
I didn't hear the buzz.
No, I think it's in the room somewhere. So
Maybe your wasps are back.
no, I hope not. I haven't gone out the front door yet.
Your wasp friends. Boom, boom. Unz, unz, unz,
We
unz.
whisper at the very end of all the Polymatics going forward.
You want to do ASMR Polymaticast?
No, that's stupid. Why would you want to do that? No one really cares. I'm not that sexy. I can't make weird little noises with my fingers.
Okay, you should stop doing that. Okay, that's enough.
Oh yeah, that's funny. Anyway, it's 12. I gotta run. So, all right, let me stop recording and let me start the process for this to upload for you.